What is the difference between the approach of Kapil and Patanjali insofar as meditation practice is concerned? So the view I hold is that Kapil is predecessor of Patanjali by many thousand years. I don't have exact figures. And we look at the human history, at least as we see it from the literature that is available in Vedic literature in India. The human history is that of devolution. Devolution in the sense of pertaining to, I will say, spiritual science, what is not amenable to our sensory organs. Of course, there is a evolution of our understanding of material science also. So, in Indian context, we look at the universe is consisting of two kinds of things, one having consciousness, one without consciousness, only made of matter. And the science of matter, we human beings started in a very seed form and they are developing it. So that is kind of evolving. But when it comes to an understanding of the consciousness, mine as well as that supreme consciousness, and the relationship between us, that also gives rise to certain ideas. Why I am in this world, if somebody has sent me here, what could be the purpose of my life, and where will I go from here? All those issues are not in material science, but in, just to give it a name, I am calling it spiritual science. But the term spiritual is has many connotations for many people. So I will say non-material science, so to say. And the terms that we have is the non-material science is Payavidya and yes, Payavidya, and material science is Apayavidya. So let's go on. And in our view, the Payavidya has been declining with time, you know. So there is a devolution of that. That is confirmed by the level of Vedic literature. So we have Vedas at the first top layer, then we have Upanishads, then we have 6 books of Vedic philosophy, then there is a major decline, uh, which is about began about 6,000 years ago, and that led to a great India war called Mahabharata War. That was about 5,100 years ago. So, and after that, we have many other literature, which in our time scale we call it Middle Ages and Modern Ages. But my personal interest is pre-Mahabharata literature. Now, when I come to the third layer, namely, first layer was Vedas, second was Upanishads, third is the 6 books of Vedic philosophy. Now, here also there is a devolution in nature. So, first is Sankhya by Kapil, much later is Patanjali's Yoga. Then there is 4 more books which we are not concerned in this discussion, but for namesake they are Nyaya, Vaisheshik, Mimamsa, and Vedanta. Now, Vedanta and Mimamsa are, I think, around 6,000 years ago, because, but I won't go into those reasons now. The point here I was trying to make is there is a huge time gap between Kapil and Patanjali. Now I want to show you, maybe I haven't quite, let me try it first time here. I'm going, I just want to use a whiteboard here so I can draw a few pictures. Okay, okay. So this I am saying is a kind of a, let's look at average human quality. So we are now talking as a default, a normal human being. This is a normal, is in, quote, so to say. And this is a Vedic view to look at why we are in this world. So I am not citing, but if you are interested in, there is a statement by Patanjali. It is second chapter. What it is saying is, let's see, the statement is. Statement is second chapter 24th. What he's saying is the reason I am in this world is because there is an element called avidya, which is some sort of ignorance, but it's not lack of knowledge, it is a wrong knowledge kind of a thing. So there is an element of avidya, which he puts as in his terms that is called as klesh. So these are some technical terms. If you know it, it's fine. Otherwise, no problem. Let's move on. So there is a particular pair of clash, what is called, I will just, this is called rag, and the other one, opposite of it is dvesh. Now, rag is just imagine something you enjoy in your day-to-day life, you like it, and when you have an opportunity, you go after that, some sort of a craving. And dvesh is aversion, it is opposite of that. There are certain things you dislike, and it's very subjective, of course, something that you allude it as if it is a cause of pain to you, and you want to stay away from it. So this is an aversion. Both are residing in our mind. So what Patanjali is saying, they take birth because of avidya. So avidya is the primary thing that gives rise to bondage that I and my mind have been put together. So because I am inheriting these two things, rag and dvesh, it it was in my mind even the moment I was born. So you have to look at it as this is kind of a baggage I am carrying from one life after another life. And after this life, I will again die at the end, and then again this will be left over from my current life experience. I am just depositing what are my new cravings and what are my new dislikes, so to say, new aversion. So this is one pair, rag and dvesh. And when I am born with this, then I do some actions. That action is called as karma. So that affects others somehow. So usually if I do something, it affects others also, directly or indirectly. Now, when it affects others in a positive way, then it is called as dharma. Don't get confused between religion and any such thing. So dharma is a righteous conduct which is universally acceptable and is also, suppose there is a justice mechanism, somebody who has an authority to reward for my action, of course, that entity is called as Ishwar, then in his view, this is a positive action. You know? And of course, there is a opposite of it, adharma. Now, my actions are, suppose I am an average nice person, I try to do mostly dharma, but, unknowingly sometimes, I'm walking and I might have killed an insect, something like adharma. But here, our rishis are very, very broad minded. So, just to point out, Vyas is saying that even as I eat my food, and I might have earned the money in a very correct, appropriate manner. I have not done any harm to anybody, but the fact I am eating my food on my dining table, it is always at the cost of somebody else. Because there is somebody else in the world who is going to go bad while hungry, remaining hungry. So if I was really following Dharma to its finality, I would have cared for his hunger. And, so this is at a very high level, you know, that I am never innocent totally. So innocently, I might be eating my food, but it is always at the cost of somebody remaining hungry. So what Vyas is trying to tell us, there is bound to be adharma, whether you know it or not, howsoever careful you are. So under the influence of rag and dvesh, this is pair number one. I am performing some actions that fall within the pair of dharma and adharma. Now there is a law of karma that becomes operative, and for dharma, I am rewarded with what is called sukha. Sukha is, sensory pleasure that is a state of mind, and its opposite is dukkha. So this is pair number three now. So these three pairs, so I am born with rag and dvesh. I live in the world and perform my actions that fall within dharma and adharma, and they consequently bring a reward to me in terms of pleasures and pains of life, which are sukh and dukkha. Now the interesting part is when I accept these rewards, then this has leaves an impression in my mind, and that impression is nothing but future craving. And this will make further deposits of dvesh, is it not? Now that completes a kind of a circle that I started with rag and dvesh. I performed dharma and adharma. I experienced sukh and dukh in my life, and when the life ends there, those sukh and dukh were also leaving certain additional impressions of rag and dvesh. Now the rag and dvesh are probably in a higher, bigger bundle, and because of rag and dvesh, I have to be born again. So this is called as Sansara Chakra. The wheel of the universe is said to have six spokes. Six spokes are namely these three pairs. So such a person, though he is a wonderful human being, he is maximizing his dharma, though he will admit that some adharma is always there, and consequently he might be living a very pleasant life, but of course there are certain unwelcoming experiences also. Then he dies after say, his lifespan. He is coming back into this world, and this goes on cycle of birth and death, and this is called as sansar chakra. Let's go now to, I hope this is the baseline. So I am calling it as an average human being. I will say these are rough estimates, very subjective. I will say in today's America, Europe, I will say 40 to 50% people are like this. Maybe in Scandinavia or Japan, maybe 70 to 80%. Maybe in India, 15 to 20%. And the world moves on, is it not? Let's see. I will have to make another diagram. So I clear all drawings, and now I go to another diagram. Now I say this is the average people that I have described. Now there are people under the temptation of, you know, they have rag and dvesh, but due to rag and dvesh, you don't have to indulge in stealing and raping a woman and all those bad things. So now there are people who, for short-term gains, just to maximize their sukh and dukh, they think they can get away from the law of karma, and they indulge in knowingly more in adharm. Not that they also do dharm. After all, that is a necessary part of life. But whenever the occasion arises, they don't mind taking the path of adharm, knowingly, willfully. So they are, of course, lower category of people. We will say they are below average. Now here, the starting story was what is called klesh, just putting it in as a term, which is, the vidya and ayag etc., etc. But we started the story with ayag and dvesh. So average person is born due to this klesh, and somehow he navigates his life staying on the side of dharma as much as possible. But now there is a person, we have them in plenty in this today's world, who knowingly and willfully, whenever the occasion arises, he can take the path of adharma for quick gains in life because he wants to maximize his sukh and in a shorter time, short terms. He doesn't have patience to wait and do dharma and let the sukh arise in later time. So, in his case, what is happening is clash is not that bad because every human being has it, but he is allowing this clash. Now, Patanjali has a term. This term is used in chapter second, I will say just before Ashtang Yoga. So it is Yoganga Ashuddhiksha, 2.28 now. So 2.28, he is using the term Ashuddhi. So Klesh, I will say, is kind of a hindrance to our moksha, so to say, because unless there is, as long as there is Klesh in my mind, I will never be permanently with the Ishwar. So I have to be born again. So that way you can say it is hindrance to the liberation, moksha, mukti, upward, nirvana, whatever you call it. But now this person who is below the category, average category, has allowed his klesh to become what is called ashuddhi. So English translation, I will say ashuddhi is impurities. So this was a hindrance, and I could somehow get away from that. And that's what is the teaching of Kapila and Patanjali, how to we are born with it and how to get away from it. But this person who is not interested in, you know, Kapil, Patanjali, liberation, moksha, etc., he lets his klesh becomes ashuddhi, and then he knowingly goes into adharma. Now, of course, there are superior people, you know. Now, what they are trying to do is, so Patanjali is writing his book. So if you look at his first chapter, so I will say chapter 1, is for this class of people where he is trying to say how to burn away this clash. So his strategy is twofold, that whatever clash is there that is giving rise to certain chittavetti, that is called klishta chittavetti, and then he says you minimize this and your mind is not in, though clash is present, but you are not influenced by clash. That we know it. Suppose there is a craving and I can, slightly tell my mind I don't want to get carried away by my craving and I want to study Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. So this is a kind of thing we are aware in our day-to-day life. So what Patanjali is trying to tell us, yes, you have an element of clash. They are, they can be, you know, they can be minimized, what he calls Kriya Yoga. If you look at Kriya Yoga statement second point too, the statement is, what does Kriya Yoga does? Klesh tanu karnathascha. Means klesh is made smaller, is making made more and more, what I should say, is as if it is fading away. It exists, but it is made less and less effective, so to say. So that is what Kriya Yoga is doing. And then you are qualified for first chapter. And then in yoga he is saying that yes, you have some remnants of clay, what is called tanu. Tanu is very small quantity, but you can. So his teaching is twofold, that you stay away from the influence of your clash and also do something, what he calls samadhi, that your clash is burnt out. Then you have no more seeds. So clash is also called a seed. So when there is no more seed, then you will not be born again. So Patanjali's teaching is for all the three kinds of people. This is Yoga first chapter. The average people he is teaching what is called Kriya Yoga, which is first section of the second chapter, and then Ashtanga Yoga is for the third category. So I have described you category 1, category 2, category 3, and in Patanjali's time, he tries to make his teaching comprehensive enough for all the segments of society. So that's why we say Patanjali's teaching is applicable in today's world, because it never will come a time when there will be a fourth category, is it not? So there will always be these three broad categories of human beings. Now, as I said, it is this is Paravidya, and this has been devolving with time. In Kapil's time, there were not people in this category, lower category, Ashuddhi category. So in Kapil's time, most of the people were in this category, you know. But there were some indicators that some people were following this strategy of life. This I will call, this is Sansar Chakra. So these two categories, the larger cycle, in our terminology, we call it Sansayic. These are worldly people. These two categories people are called as worldly people. They came into the world, they will die and will come back into the world. And they don't have enough motivation to get out of the world, so to say, is it not? Now, Patanjali's teaching is comprehensive for all the three categories, but as I said, in Kapil's time, he was disturbed by the fact, because prior to Kapil, everybody was in this category, top category, and they were following the Vedic message and making best use of their life to attain moksha, etc., etc. So that maybe it required more than a lifetime, but they were steadfast on that. But devolution comes in Kapil's time, that some people are now, this is what we call materialistic life. Don't mislead me wrongly. When I say materialistic life, I mean category 2 and 3. But category 2 is not bad people. Please bear this in mind. These are not bad people, they are good people, but they don't have the motivation or the message that they can rise above the worldly people in this. They have no idea like that. So now in Kapil's time, some people are following to the materialistic life. Then he is trying to tell them, look, you are trying to maximize your sukh, but you will never be that smart. So it's not a good strategy to go from dukh to sukh. The good strategy is to go from dukh to anand. So that's why they don't want to say get away from dukh to sukh, because if you go to sukh, there will always be dukh, because sukh and dukh are nothing but two states of our mind. So they are teaching at a different level that you become master of your mind and then come in this category. So, Kapil's message is basically Abhyas and Vairagya. So you will see this term Vairagya, and that is also Patanjali's message for first chapter in this chapter. So Patanjali's message for first chapter is very much same as Kapil's message, and these two terms are Abhyas and Vairagya. Vairagya you will see because the story started with Rag, so Vairagya is opposite of it, that I want to ignore all kinds of cravings that I am born with. So getting that sort of a detachment is vairagya. So that is important. So you take interest in this, and abhyas is doing the meditation practice. So, both are talking the same thing, but in Kapil's time, he is in this small circle where some people are beginning to fall down to second category. But in Patanjali's
Audience is
time, all the three categories are present, and his message is comprehensive enough for all of them. So, this requires an understanding of human mind and how does it function according to Vedic philosophy, and what are the overall purpose of human life, because we are the only one, as opposed to other animals and birds, who can get away from this cycle of birth and death, samsara chakra. So
right,
I
Oscar.
hope I have answered your question.